The steady hum of the Horizon's engines filled the bridge as Commander James Miller stood at the viewport, watching the massive alien ship approach. His hands were clasped behind his back, but his fingers kept fidgeting with the small piece of bubble wrap in his pocket, an old habit he'd picked up during long space flights. The crew called it his stress relief, and he'd never bothered to correct them. The alien vessel was beautiful in a terrifying way. Its crystalline surface caught the light of the distant sun, creating rainbow patterns that danced across its hull. It was at least 3 times the size of the Horizon, and its design spoke of technology far beyond anything humans had achieved. "They're hailing us again, Commander," Officer Tom Bell reported from his communication station, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "Their universal translator seems to have finished processing our language data." Miller took a deep breath and nodded. "Put them through on the main screen." The alien that appeared before them was tall and imposing, with a metallic sheen to its skin that reminded Miller of polished bronze. Its 4 eyes blinked in an unsettling pattern as it studied the human crew. "I am Supreme Commander Rax of the Stalwart Empire," it announced, its translated voice carrying a hint of electronic distortion. "Your species is unknown to our databases. Identify yourselves." Miller stepped forward. "I am Commander James Miller of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations with other spacefaring civilizations." A sound that might have been laughter came from the alien commander. "Diplomatic relations. Your vessel's technology is barely beyond primitive combustion engines. What could your species possibly offer the Stalwart Empire?" Before Miller could respond, a loud pop echoed through the bridge. Every head turned to Technical Officer Mary White, who had been nervously playing with a sheet of bubble wrap during the transmission. Her face turned red as she quickly tried to hide the packing material under her console. The alien commander's eyes focused on the source of the sound. What was that primitive device? Miller felt his own piece of bubble wrap in his pocket and made a split-second decision. He pulled it out and held it up to the camera. It's just packaging material. We use it to protect delicate equipment during transport." He popped one of the bubbles, causing the alien commander to flinch slightly at the unexpected sound. "Fascinating," Rex said, though his tone suggested the opposite. "You protect your technology with air-filled patches. Truly, your species is more primitive than we initially assessed." The meeting continued for another hour, with the stalwarts barely concealing their disdain for human technology. They asked about Earth's defenses, colonial outposts, and military capabilities, all while dismissing each answer with barely concealed amusement. Miller noticed their particular interest in their shield technology, which they proudly demonstrated by deliberately flying through a small asteroid field without taking any damage. As the diplomatic exchange wound down, Miller couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The stalwarts' questions had been too focused on military matters for a simple first contact situation. He watched their ship depart, its crystal hull gleaming like a predator's scales in the sunlight. "Well, that could have gone better," Bell muttered, slumping in his chair. Miller squeezed the bubble wrap in his pocket, the familiar sensation helping him think. "Send a message to Earth Command. Mark it Priority 1. Tell them," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "tell them we've made first contact with an advanced civilization, but I strongly recommend increasing our border patrols. Something about these stalwarts doesn't feel right." "Sir," White spoke up, still embarrassed about her earlier slip, "did you notice how their commander reacted to the bubble wrap? It seemed to really bother them." Miller nodded absently, his mind already racing ahead to potential scenarios. Note that in the report too. "In my experience, the things that bother someone often tell you more about them than the things that don't." As the Horizon set course for Earth, the crew returned to their duties, the tension slowly easing from their shoulders. But Miller remained at the viewport, watching the spot where the alien ship had disappeared into the darkness of space. He had a feeling that this wasn't the last they'd see of the Stalwart Empire. And next time, the meeting might not be so peaceful. The piece of bubble wrap in his pocket made a soft pop as he squeezed it one last time. For some reason, that small sound felt more important than it should have. 3 months after first contact, Admiral Ann Thompson stood in Earth's Central Command Center, watching red dots multiply across the holographic display. Each dot represented another human colony or outpost that had gone silent after reporting stalwart ships in their vicinity. The pattern was clear. They were being surrounded. Another distress signal from Europa Station, reported Captain Mike Rogers, his voice tight with concern. They say 3 stalwart warships just appeared in orbit. Our defense fleet is engaging. But he paused as new data streamed across his screen. Their weapons can't get through the alien shields. It's like shooting bullets at a mountain. Thompson grabbed the edge of the command table, her knuckles turning white. The stalwarts had waited until humanity felt secure, sending trade delegations and sharing minor technological advances. Then, without warning, their true invasion force had emerged from deep space. "Play the last transmission from Europa Station again," Thompson ordered. The room fell silent as the scratchy recording began to play. "This is Europa Station. We're under attack. Our weapons are useless. Their shields just absorb everything we throw at them. They're using some kind of crystal technology we've never seen before. The sound when our weapons hit their shields, it's like breaking glass, but the pieces just reform instantly. We need immediate assistance." The message cut off in static. Thompson closed her eyes, remembering the reports from Commander Miller's first contact. The stalwarts had seemed so amused by human technology, so dismissive. Now she understood why. They'd been evaluating Earth's defenses all along, knowing their shields made them practically invincible to human weapons. "Admiral," a young lieutenant called out. "Commander Miller's Horizon just docked at Luna Base. He's requesting an immediate meeting. Says it's about a potential weakness in stalwart defenses." Thompson straightened up. Miller had been the first to warn them about the stalwart's true nature. "Put him through to my private channel." Miller's face appeared on her screen, looking tired but oddly excited. "Admiral, I've been studying the stalwarts since first contact. Their shield technology, it's not just energy-based. It's some kind of crystalline structure that responds to specific frequencies. Commander, we have 12 colonies under attack. Unless you have something concrete." "Bubble wrap," Miller interrupted. "Every time we popped bubble wrap during that first meeting, their commander flinched. At first I thought it was just annoyance, but I've been running tests. The frequency of popping bubble wrap, it disrupts their shield harmonics. Their entire defensive system is based on maintaining perfect crystalline frequencies, and we might have accidentally discovered how to shatter it." Thompson stared at him for a long moment. "You're telling me that bubble wrap, the packing material, might be our best weapon against an advanced alien invasion force?" "Not the bubble wrap itself," Miller explained quickly. "But if we could replicate that exact frequency, amplify it, their shields might not just fail, they could shatter completely. They're so confident in their technology's superiority that they never considered something so simple could threaten it." Before Thompson could respond, another alarm blared. The holographic display showed 5 more colonies going dark. The stalwart advance was accelerating. "Even if you're right," Thompson said, "we'd need time to develop and test a weapon based on this theory. Time we don't have." Miller leaned closer to the camera. "Then give me one ship. Let me prove it works. The stalwarts think we're primitive. They won't expect us to attack. Their arrogance is their weakness." Thompson looked back at the display, watching more human colonies vanish under the stalwart advance. They were running out of options. Their conventional weapons were useless, their fleets were being decimated, and Earth itself would be next. "You have 24 hours, she finally said. "Take the Horizon. If you can prove this works." She left the sentence unfinished. Miller nodded sharply. "Sometimes the dumbest-looking solution is the smartest option we have. And right now, it's our only option." As the communication ended, Thompson turned back to the command center. Get me our top sonic weapons researchers. If Miller's right, we need to be ready to mass-produce these weapons the moment he proves the concept. The red dots continued to spread across the display, but for the first time since the invasion began, Thompson felt a glimmer of hope. Sometimes the best weapon was the one the enemy was too proud to fear. Robert Walker paced the cramped supply room of the Horizon, counting boxes of emergency rations for the third time. The constant stress of their mission made it hard to focus. They were deep in asteroid territory, hunting for a stalwart scout ship to test their crazy theory. His hands found a sheet of bubble wrap, and he absently started popping it. An old habit he picked up from Commander Miller. The ship's sensors hummed in the background, their pitch changing as they searched for enemy vessels. Walker noticed something odd. When he popped the bubble wrap, the sensor readings flickered. At first, he thought he was seeing things, his mind playing tricks after too many hours on duty. But there it was again. Computer, replay sensor harmonics from the last 30 seconds, he said, popping another bubble. The computer displayed the wave patterns on his tablet. There was a clear disruption in the reading each time. He popped the bubble wrap. The pattern looked familiar. Walker's eyes widened as he remembered the briefing about stalwart shield frequencies. He grabbed his tablet and ran to the bridge, still clutching the bubble wrap. He burst in, out of breath, startling Commander Miller and the bridge crew. "Sir, you need to see this," Walker gasped, hurrying to Miller's station. "It's not just that the sound annoys them. Look at these readings." He popped a bubble while displaying the sensor data. The energy patterns spiked in a distinctive way. Miller leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Show me again." Walker popped another bubble. The same spike appeared. "The frequency matches what we know about their shield harmonics. It's not just similar. It's exactly the same frequency that their crystals use to reform after impact, but reversed. Like noise-canceling headphones," Miller muttered, understanding dawning on his face. "Their shields work by maintaining a perfect harmonic frequency. The pop creates an counter-frequency that could disrupt their entire shield matrix," Walker finished. "We wouldn't just be weakening their shields, we'd be shattering the very frequency they depend on." The bridge crew gathered around the display, watching as Walker demonstrated the effect again and again. Each pop created the same disruption pattern. "But how do we turn this into a weapon?" asked First Officer Jane Addams. "We can't exactly throw sheets of bubble wrap at their ships." Miller was already typing commands into his console. "We don't have to. If we can replicate this exact frequency with our ship's sonic emitters." He paused, looking at Walker. "How many sheets of bubble wrap do we have in storage?" "About 50 cases, sir. It was part of the standard supply package for protecting sensitive equipment." "Get it all. We need to record and analyze every possible variation of that popping sound. Different bubble sizes, different pressure levels, everything. If we're going to replicate this frequency, we need to understand exactly how it works." For the next 6 hours, the crew of the Horizon found themselves doing something they never imagined would be part of a military mission, systematically popping bubble wrap while recording the sonic patterns. They tested different sizes, different atmospheric pressures, even different popping speeds. Walker's fingers were sore, but each new test revealed more about the frequency pattern they needed. The ship's computer compiled the data, building a complete sonic profile of the perfect shield-breaking pop. "Sir," Walker called out, checking the latest analysis, "I think we've got it. The computers isolated the exact frequency pattern. If we modify our sonic emitters to broadcast this specific wavelength." Miller nodded. "Load the pattern into the weapons system. But keep all that bubble wrap. If this works, every ship in the fleet will need samples to calibrate their own sonic emitters." The ship's alert system suddenly blared to life. "Stalwart scout ship detected at bearing 047. The computer announced. Range, 200,000 kilometers. Miller looked at his crew, his hand brushing against the bubble wrap that started it all. "Well, looks like we're about to test our theory." Battle stations. Everyone. Let's show them what the dumbest weapon in history can do. Walker hurried to his station, still amazed that humanity's best hope against an advanced alien invasion force had been sitting in storage rooms across the fleet, protecting spare parts. Sometimes the best solutions were the ones hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice them. Dr. Lisa Cooper stood in the underground research facility on Mars, surrounded by walls covered in complex frequency diagrams and crystalline structure analysis. The room hummed with the sound of dozens of sonic emitters being tested at different frequencies. Each one tried to perfectly match the shield-breaking pop they'd discovered on the horizon. Test number 47, she announced, adjusting the controls. The emitter in the center of the room produced a sharp crack that shattered the test crystals suspended in the chamber. But the pieces quickly reformed, just like the stalwart shields. Still not quite right, she muttered, making notes on her tablet. They'd been working nonstop since Commander Miller's discovery, trying to turn a simple packing material into humanity's salvation. The stalwarts had already taken 6 more colonies while they worked. A young technician burst into the lab, waving a data pad. Dr. Cooper, the Horizon just sent new data. They managed to record the shield frequencies from a real stalwart ship. Lisa grabbed the pad, her eyes racing over the numbers. This is it, the missing piece. Their shields operate on a quantum harmonic level. That's why they can't be broken by conventional weapons. She turned to her team. Modify the emitters. We need to match these exact patterns. The lab sprang to life as technicians adjusted equipment and recalibrated their devices. Lisa studied the new data, amazed by its elegance. The stalwarts had created nearly perfect defensive technology, but its very perfection made it vulnerable. Like a wine glass shattering at just the right musical note, their shields could be destroyed by the exact counter frequency. Ready for test 48, called out her assistant Tom. The new crystal sample hung in the chamber, its surface shimmering with the same rainbow patterns they'd seen in stalwart ships. Lisa took a deep breath and activated the modified emitter. The sound it produced was barely noticeable, just a soft pop, like bubble wrap being squeezed. But the effect was dramatic. The test crystal didn't just crack, it exploded into powder. Record everything, Lisa shouted, her heart racing. Match that frequency exactly. We need to be able to reproduce this effect perfectly. As her team worked, a communication window opened on the main screen. Admiral Thompson's face appeared, looking more tired than ever. Dr. Cooper, please tell me you have good news. The stalwarts just took Neptune Station. They're moving deeper into our solar system every day. Lisa nodded, sending the test results. We've cracked it, Admiral. The frequency that disrupts their shields. It's like finding the exact note that breaks a crystal glass, but on a quantum level. Their entire defensive system depends on maintaining perfect crystalline harmony. We can shatter that harmony. How quickly can you turn this into a deployable weapon? We've already started modifying sonic emitters for our ships. The frequency is surprisingly simple to reproduce once you know the pattern. We can have the first units ready in 48 hours. The Admiral's expression darkened. We might not have 48 hours. Our long-range sensors show a major stalwart fleet approaching Saturn. They're planning something big. Lisa looked around her lab, at the teams of scientists and engineers working frantically to save humanity with what seemed like the universe's most ridiculous weapon. Give us 24 hours. We'll have something ready. After the Admiral signed off, Lisa turned back to her work. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity's greatest scientific achievement would be based on copying the sound of bubble wrap. The stalwarts had spent centuries perfecting their crystal technology, making it more and more sophisticated. But sometimes, the more perfect something became, the more fragile it grew. Begin production of the sonic disruptors, she ordered. Install them on every ship we have, and send instructions to all our remaining colonies. I want every scrap of bubble wrap in human space collected and analyzed. We need to understand every possible variation of that frequency. As her team rushed to comply, Lisa picked up a small piece of bubble wrap from her desk. She popped one bubble, listening to the simple sound that had revealed the weakness in humanity's greatest enemy. Sometimes the best weapons weren't the ones that cost billions to develop, but the ones that had been right in front of you all along. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter stretched out before the horizon like a field of floating rocks. Commander Miller stood at his post, watching the tactical display as his crew made final adjustments to their new sonic weapon. They had tracked a stalwart scout ship to this region, and everything depended on this first real test. Target ship detected, Officer Bell announced from his station. They're moving through the asteroid field, probably scanning for more of our colonies. Miller nodded, his hand unconsciously touching the bubble wrap in his pocket. Status of the sonic emitters. All systems ready, Walker reported, his fingers dancing over the controls. Frequency matched to test results. Dr. Cooper's team did amazing work converting the bubble wrap pop into a weaponized sound wave. The stalwart ship drew closer, its crystalline hull gleaming among the asteroids. It was bigger than the horizon, its surface rippling with rainbow patterns as its shields deflected small rocks from the asteroid field. The alien ship hadn't noticed them yet. Their new approach vector had worked perfectly. Remember, Miller addressed his crew, we only get one shot at this. If it doesn't work, they'll warn their fleet about what we're trying to do. He took a deep breath. Weapons range in 30 seconds. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet beeping of instruments. The stalwart ship continued its patrol, arrogantly confident in its superior technology. They had no reason to fear human weapons. Every previous encounter had proven their shields were impenetrable. Range achieved, Walker announced. Sonic emitters charged and targeted. Miller straightened in his chair. This is for every colony they've taken. Fire. The Horizon's new weapon activated with an almost gentle sound, like someone popping a giant piece of bubble wrap in space. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the effect hit the stalwart ship. The crystalline shields surrounding the alien vessel began to vibrate. Rainbow patterns turned into chaotic swirls as the perfect harmony of their defensive matrix encountered its counter-frequency. The ship's surface seemed to shiver, like the surface of a pond in the rain. It's working, Walker shouted, checking his readings. Their shield frequency is destabilizing. The effect built quickly. Cracks appeared in the seemingly invincible shield, spreading like spider webs across its surface. The stalwart ship tried to react, but it was too late. With a flash of light that temporarily blinded their sensors, the alien vessel's shields shattered completely. Direct hit, Bell called out. Their shields they're just gone. They're completely exposed. The stalwart ship hung in space, its once proud crystal hull now dull and lifeless without its shield matrix. A transmission suddenly came through, the alien commander's voice filled with disbelief. Impossible, the translated voice said. How did you, with such primitive? The transmission cut off as the ship's emergency systems engaged. The vessel turned and fled, disappearing into the asteroid field. The bridge crew of the Horizon erupted in cheers. Walker hugged his console, laughing in relief. It actually worked. The dumbest weapon in history just took down their best defense. Miller was already recording a message to Earth Command. Admiral Thompson, test successful. The sonic weapon completely neutralized their shields. Recommend immediate distribution to all remaining ships in the fleet. The stalwarts aren't invincible anymore. As the message was sent, Miller looked at his crew. They'll warn their fleet about what happened here. The next battle won't be so easy. They'll try to adapt their shields, find some way to counter our weapon. Let them try, Walker said, still grinning. They've spent centuries making their shields more perfect, more crystalline. They can't change their basic technology overnight. And the more perfect their crystals are, the more vulnerable they are to the right frequency, Miller finished. He pulled out his piece of bubble wrap and popped one last bubble, smiling at the simple sound that had changed everything. Send the combat data to Dr. Cooper's team. We need every ship in the fleet equipped with these weapons before the stalwarts recover from their shock. The horizon turned toward Mars, leaving the asteroid field behind. They had proved their weapon worked. Now they just had to make enough of them to save Earth. And they had to do it before the stalwarts recovered from discovering that their greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. Saturn's rings glowed in the distant sunlight as the combined fleet of Earth gathered near Titan. Admiral Thompson stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Defender, watching as hundreds of human ships moved into position. Each vessel now carried the sonic weapons that had proven so effective against the stalwart shields. They would need every single one. "Stalwart fleet detected," announced the sensor officer. "Over 300 ships approaching from the outer system. Their formation suggests they're preparing for a major assault." Thompson studied the tactical display. The enemy fleet was massive, their crystal ships forming perfect geometric patterns as they advanced. They had obviously received word about their scout ship's defeat. Their formation was tighter than usual, designed to provide overlapping shield coverage. "They think they've figured out a counter to our weapon," said Captain Rogers, now her second in command. "Look at how their shields are synchronized. They're trying to reinforce each other's frequencies." Thompson smiled grimly. "That just means they're all vibrating to the same tune. Send word to all ships. Prepare to fire on my command. Let's show them what happens when you make your weakness stronger." The distance between the fleets shortened rapidly. The stalwart ships were magnificent and terrifying, their crystalline hulls creating a dazzling light show against the backdrop of space. A transmission cut through the tension. "This is Supreme Commander Rax of the Stalwart Empire." The familiar voice boomed across all channels. "Your primitive attempt to disrupt our shield technology has been noted and countered. Surrender now, and we will show mercy." Thompson pressed the broadcast button. "This is Admiral Thompson of Earth. We've seen your kind of mercy. Here's our answer." She nodded to her weapons officer. "All ships, fire sonic disruptors. Full spread." The space between Saturn's rings lit up as hundreds of human ships activated their weapons simultaneously. The sound waves were invisible in space, but their effect was immediate and spectacular. The perfectly synchronized stalwart shields began to vibrate, their reinforced frequencies turning against them. "They're trying to adapt," Rogers called out. "Their shields are changing patterns. Hit them again," Thompson ordered. "Don't let them stabilize." The human fleet fired a second wave. The stalwart ships' attempt to change their shield frequency only made things worse. Their hasty adjustments created chaos in their defensive matrix. Shield after shield began to crack, the perfect crystals unable to maintain their harmony under the assault. A massive series of flashes lit up space as the front line of stalwart ships lost their shields completely. Their synchronized defense had turned into a synchronized failure. Panic spread through their fleet as more ships began to lose their supposedly impenetrable protection. "They're breaking formation," the tactical officer reported. "Their fleet is splitting up, trying to escape the effect." Thompson leaned forward. "Don't let them regroup. All ships, advance and maintain sonic barrage. Focus on their command ship. It's the one still trying to coordinate their defense." The human fleet surged forward, their weapons continuing to emit the shield-breaking frequency. The stalwart ships scattered in disarray, their perfect battle formation dissolving into chaos. Some tried to return fire, but their weapons were designed to work in conjunction with their shields. Without them, they were far less effective. Supreme Commander Rax's voice came through again, but this time it was filled with disbelief. "How? How is this possible? You've turned simple sound into a weapon that defeats our greatest technology." "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones," Thompson replied. "Your shields were perfect, and that was their flaw. You never considered that perfection itself could be a weakness." The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was already decided. By the time Saturn completed another degree of its orbit around the Sun, the mighty stalwart invasion fleet was in full retreat, More than 50 of their ships had been captured, their crews surrendering after their shields failed. The rest fled back toward the outer system, their once proud crystal hulls now dull and powerless. Thompson looked around her bridge, at the tired but triumphant faces of her crew. "Send word to Earth. Tell them." She paused, allowing herself to smile. "Tell them that humanity just won its first interstellar war with the power of bubble wrap." 1 month after the Battle of Titan, Commander Miller walked through the grand halls of the newly constructed Peace Center on Earth's moon. The building was a marvel of combined human and stalwart architecture, with crystalline walls that had been deliberately designed not to resonate at the now famous bubble wrap frequency. The irony wasn't lost on him. Representatives from both species gathered in the main conference room. Admiral Thompson stood at one end of the long table, while Supreme Commander Rax sat at the other. The once proud alien leader looked different now, humbler, though his bronze skin still gleamed under the lights. "The terms of peace are simple," Thompson was saying. "All human colonies will be returned. Both species will share technology and resources for peaceful purposes. And most importantly, no more attempts at conquest." Rax nodded slowly. "We have learned a costly lesson about underestimating others. Our empire spent centuries perfecting our crystal technology, making it more and more sophisticated. We became so focused on advancement that we forgot the value of simplicity." Miller watched as Dr. Cooper entered the room, carrying a clear display case. Inside was the original sheet of bubble wrap from the Horizon supply room, the one that had led to their discovery. It would be displayed permanently in the Peace Center as a reminder of how the war had turned. "Your species is remarkable," Rax continued, his 4 eyes studying the bubble wrap. "While we sought to make our technology more complex, you found power in simplicity. We thought we were invincible because our shields could withstand any weapon. We never considered that the very perfection we sought would become our greatest weakness." Robert Walker, now a senior technical advisor, demonstrated the principle one last time. He took out a small crystal and a piece of bubble wrap. The pop of the bubble made the crystal vibrate and crack. "The simplest frequency," he explained, "can disrupt the most complex pattern. Nature itself teaches us this lesson, but we often forget to look for simple answers." The peace treaty was signed with representatives from both species pressing their hands against a crystal panel. As it recorded their biometric data, Miller remembered the first contact meeting that had started it all. How different things might have been if the stalwarts had simply shown respect instead of arrogance. "We will be removing the crystal-based shields from all our warships," Rax announced. "Instead, we hope to work with humans to develop new defensive technologies, ones that combine both our approaches. Perhaps together, we can find a balance between complexity and simplicity." After the ceremony, Miller found himself standing with Thompson and Cooper on the observation deck, looking out at Earth hanging in space. A stalwart ship passed by, its hull now sporting a new design that combined their crystal technology with human-inspired innovations. "Hard to believe it's really over," Cooper said, watching the ship. "All our advanced weapons, all our military technology, and in the end, we won because of packing material." Thompson smiled. "We won because we were willing to look for answers everywhere, even in the most unlikely places. The stalwarts made themselves vulnerable by believing that advanced always meant better." Miller pulled out his lucky piece of bubble wrap, the same one he'd carried since that first contact. "Sometimes the best solutions are hiding in plain sight. We just have to be humble enough to see them." As if to emphasize his point, he popped one last bubble. The sound echoed through the observation deck, making a passing stalwart diplomat jump slightly before laughing at his own reaction. The gesture of shared humor meant more than any treaty. It showed that both species had learned to see past their prejudices. The war that had threatened to end humanity had instead opened up a new chapter in their history. Humans and stalwarts were already working together on joint projects, combining the best aspects of both civilizations. And in the Peace Center's main hall, a simple piece of bubble wrap in a display case reminded everyone who passed by that sometimes the universe's greatest lessons came wrapped in the most ordinary packages. As the sun rose over Earth's horizon, casting long shadows through the Peace Center's crystal walls, Miller thought about all the impossible things humanity had achieved. They had reached the stars, survived first contact, won an unwinnable war, and made peace with a powerful enemy. And they had done it all because someone noticed something strange about the sound of popping bubble wrap. Sometimes the dumbest weapon really was the smartest solution.